Gentlemen, before we go to a bit of a gift, a surprise gift from everybody at Ubisoft and all of us here, even on the esports part of Rainbow Six, we're going to have a bit of a quick chat about the Rainbow Six universe. Just don't go away anywhere. Please, I would like you to all join in welcoming two fantastic gentlemen that have worked on the game and its narrative direction. Please welcome Lucien and Emmanuel.
Hi, Heimlich.
Hey, everybody.
So, first of all, gentlemen, how's the Invitational so far from your perspective?
It's fantastic, and really, this is truly a humbling experience.
Yeah, what can I say? It's the first time I'm here at the Six Invitational. It's incredible to see all this crowd, all this passion and emotion. That's really nice.
Yeah, we saw that in your bit just a few minutes ago, Emmanuel. But we're gathered here today to talk about the Rainbow Six universe. There's a lot of stories, a lot of operators and everything that's behind them. And as we saw with Saw Siege, that is, and with Zeronic and Susie as well, so many people within the community, there's a lot of care being put from the community to create these storylines around characters, the cosplay, the fan art, all of that. Over the past year, there's been a huge surge in them. How's that affected you guys, part of the development team?
Yeah, you know, the game has been released 3 years ago, and we were not expecting this. And day after day, we received so much love and passion from our community. We were so surprised by how prolific the community was. And it inspired us. It gave us so much desire to give more wonderful concepts here from our fan artists. And yes, and we decided this last year to try to go deeper in our universe and to bring some more flesh to the universe.
But guys, how have you done that from your perspective and your end on the development team?
Well, one of the things that we've done is it started with Outbreak. I mean, Outbreak was going to be the first time that we saw our operators working together, talking together. They didn't exist. As a solo, you know. And that's one of the things that the community inspired us to do, which was to show the operators who they were together as friends, as rivals. You saw it with Outbreak. With Doc standing his own as a humanitarian. You saw it with Ash and Thermite, how they kind of had a little bit of that interplay. And even then, the actors themselves kind of inspired us to push that further and to show these individuals as kind of having a close bond together.
Yeah, and we saw a bit of an expansion on all of that within year 3, and we're hoping that's going to be the case for the future. How many people are actually working on this in the back?
Well, to be honest, with the success of Outbreak last year, the project decided to create a full dedicated team to the universe. A team composed by, you know, writers, animators, voice designers, artists, and their job is to create the lore of these operators and to go deeper in the universe of each one, to create more characterization, working on the animation in-game, working on the voices in-game, and all that to go to add some more characterization.
But even the way we feed off of each other. I mean, the team is sort of filled with creatives who are specialized in their own domain. So we're feeding off of each other and always looking at, wow, that's a nice piece of art, and trying to incorporate that into the story or the way the sound design is done. It's really a fun project to be on in terms of how close the universe team is.
And you mentioned incorporating different people and different ideas in all of this. Even the voice actors themselves seem to be very intrinsic to this whole experience. How were things going on in that recording booth?
Well, the fun part about the recording booth is that from the beginning, we've always allowed actors to kind of come in and own characters and to try and make them their own. And so we like to have fun with our actors. We give them the opportunity to say, hey, what is it that you would like to do with this character? How would you like to push this forward? And so it's a lot more of a dialogue that we have. And I think that's been endemic to the entire game as a whole. It's always been a dialogue between the community and ourselves, a dialogue between us and creators and content creators and artists, as Manu mentioned.
Yeah, and the release of Outbreak was definitely that first big step into that new idea. Literally 1 year ago, as we were here at Invitational 2018, we're not expecting that at all. And we saw the release of bit of a story intertwined game mode with it. And I suppose it is fairly complicated to try and fit that in a multiplayer only game, but somehow throughout the year you managed to create these operators that kind of fulfill their own stories and narratives that are drawn from real things in Groundland as well. Anything from your side?
Yes, Outbreak was, as you said, Outbreak was a first step, and we wanted to go much more further. And that's what we tried during the last year with our operators, operators. And maybe we could talk about Maestro.
Oh, I like that operator.
It was very important.
I don't know if you've heard about it, but I actually really like Maestro. Pretty cool guy.
He was a turning point in the way we design the operators. You know, when we see this guy, it's the first time we were representing an operators without a weapon and also with a big smile.
Yeah.
And this character was, to be honest, let's talk about inspiration. This character was inspired by Cyrano de Bergerac. You know, I had in mind this type of characters who could fight in a duel while telling a story.
Yep.
And we can find this joie de vivre, Lucien, in game.
And the other thing was that one of the big things is that you mentioned it, how do you put story in a multiplayer game? And one of the ways that we started doing that is we started paying attention to how the gadgets informed them, how they viewed their own gadgets, how they, the introduction of the psychological profiles and everything. But like for Maestro, for example, he calls his gadget the evil eye. And that comes from the fact that he grew up around Romani kids, and there was always this joke among the Romani about giving somebody the evil eye. And so, you know, he played around with that.
Yeah, we have that as well, even back home in Lebanon, Arab world in general, Ain Hassoud as we call it. But yeah, there are these inspirations that all come in. So we see it's not only specific characters, as you mentioned, Cyrano de Bergerac, but in general, ideas that come in and then are grounded in reality by being operators within these military units. That wasn't, though, your only step into this kind of storytelling and narrative for the year, because later on in Grim Sky, we saw Maverick released.
Yeah, and the thing with Maverick was that was, I think, the first character where we really pushed narratively how the narrative was reflected on the character. So, for example, if you take a look at his canister, there's a little bit of writing on it, and it comes because it's the original canister that he used. Now, we can't really talk about what happened to him or the situation that it got him out of, but we can say that Tony Stark would be really proud.
All right, dropping a lot of knowledge bombs on here.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing was the tattoo.
Well, with Maverick, we tried as much as possible to integrate and to inject this lore into the character. And yes, this guy felt in love with Afghanistan. And originally, the character was much more darker, and we decided to go into a much more lighter direction, something much more optimistic. Mm-hmm. And this guy felt in love with Afghanistan, and I had in mind some pictures of, some readings, a book of from Joseph Kessel, Les Cavaliers, French author. Around the Buzkashi, a national game in Afghanistan, and so I had pictures of Maverick on his horse into the landscape of Afghanistan. That's why we wanted to integrate this map of Afghanistan on his arm, which is very important for him.
Yeah, he forgot to tell you the one part about Buzkashi that he had to sell the team on, which is it's a game played with a dead goat.
Yeah, it's basically, how do I put this in words? It's polo with a goat.
Yeah.
Yeah, try to imagine that. But yes, it is historically very much a national sport. So there you go. It's putting in multiple cultures and their history into the game as well, because someone somewhere out there will look at it and say, oh, this is from where I come from. Yeah. And that also ties back into the game. And even, we saw his gas canister, the utility that he uses, it's also called Suri in the game, which means fire as well in Afghan and Farsi. So
exactly.
Everything gets integrated in there in every single detail. But that's not, again, the only thing that happened, because guess what? We had Wind Bastion released afterwards, and Nomad. Now, she is a very interesting character.
Nomad for us was also very important. It was a new way for us to tell stories, also with her diary, and we wanted to communicate differently the way we tell stories with our operators.
Yeah. And the thing that I found interesting about with her was that it was not only a new way of telling it, but the thing is that we also gave her the limitation of missing a couple of her digits. And the thing is that we made sure, we actually spoke to our Special Operation Forces consultants and to undercover police and everything, and we said, how limiting is that? Can you come back from an injury like that? And they told us how she would have to have gone back into training, how she would have to get recertified, and that sort of actually became that became a core of her character, that sort of willingness to, power through.
Yeah, that resilience, and as well we see it in her sense of exploration. She's inspired by just discovery, and you see it not only in her icon, but just her voice lines as well in the game.
Exactly, and this was also the first time we represented characters outside the maybe cold aspect of the military curriculum vitae, and we're much more interested by her adventures, the fact that she could travel in the world alone, by herself, strong women knowing so much culture, so many languages, and this was her strength.
And she is inspired by reality as well. It's not like she's coming from just somebody's head.
Exactly. One of my first inspiration was characters like Sarah Marquis or Mike Horn, these great actual adventurers who can travel around the world alone with nothing to, and just trying to survive. And this was Nomad.
Yeah. And so each character that we see coming forward, we always try and figure out ways that we can not only push them, but that we can also ground them and sort of find that one seed of inspiration that everything revolves around.
Yeah, and the community has definitely latched on to the idea. I mean, here we have Aspira, I believe, who's also dressed up as Nomad. So if you've seen her around, it's not just her that's in cosplay. There's a ton more, as you saw yesterday, and it just brings the community as well around one more extra thing.
Yeah.
All right, are we done teasing? Are we done delaying?
Yeah, I think people are ready, don't you?
Well, let's go.
Are you ready for a bit of a gift from Ubisoft? All right, you know what? Let's just stop with the teasing. Ladies and gentlemen, here or at home, I hope you enjoy our next CGI.
Attention all operators, 30 seconds remaining in the scenario.
Smoky now.
Section 2 participants, please report to room B4 for hot wash.
Don't worry. Maybe we'll get it right next time.
2 more seconds and we would have had eyes in the room.
If they were already on cameras, that's 2 seconds too slow. Piece of advice. No lag that.
He has no respect for anything. If it doesn't fire a bullet or explode, he dismisses it. Look at this.
Oh.
No
Careful.
lag.
My wife has a strict policy about knives in the house, and I have a strict policy about not pissing off my wife.
I know Thatcher is supposed to be the best, but he's a hammer, and I'm just a nail to him.
Sit. Sit. It won't bite. You're angry. That's good. Anger can be a powerful tool, but we're terrified of losing control, of embracing it. And that's why I envy Mike. Mike faced his demons. He knows how to channel his anger.
Outbreak? Your retirement plan's gone to shite.
Who beat you?
Come on, leave it alone. It was a misunderstanding.
Who beat you, Paulie?
It was Nick and his boys. It was just them bending me elbow a bit.
How much this time?
5 large? Oh no. Come on, Mike. Don't do this.
This isn't your typical online poker, boys. Big blind is 10 quid, but if you want to piss off, your money stays on the table.
Here's the money my brother owes you. But what comes next, my good sons, is from God's mouth to your ears. And I will make it hurt for the rest of your miserable fucking lives.
Hello, Nick. How's your mom?
This isn't about how Thatcher's been treating you, is it?
I'm just tired of trying to prove myself.
It'll take time for some, but you are nobody's nail. You're much too sharp for that. Rainbow needs people who will challenge the future of the unit. And those who will remind it of its roots. It needs people who can be the scalpel and the hammer.
Thank you, 6.
6. She left some very large shoes to fill, didn't she? I'll tell you what. For now, please call me Harry.
Gentlemen, unless I am mistaken, I think they like it.
Yeah.
Do you? Yeah, that was pretty good.
That was amazing. Being here to watch your reactions, holding on to this thing for like 8 months, keeping him hidden.
Yeah, and not only has Mr. Andy over here, our voice actor, and also an actor in general, for a new member in Rainbow Six. This is gonna be pretty darn interesting.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
It's amazing.
Just a question.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's usually my go-to.
Just a question. Is there anybody you know that actually plays Siege and you had to keep them away from
Yes, I did have to keep this a secret for a very long time.
Is someone in your family or
friends that play it.
Yeah, we found out his brother plays RPG, so we don't talk about that.
Maybe he plays Assassin's Creed down. But I really hope they're going to enjoy this and finally being able to see you here in this reveal. Gentlemen, it's been so long since you've been waiting to reveal this, and guess what? Yeah, they teased me about this for over a month. That's great, right? Finally, I got to see it, and everybody enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
Totally worth it.
It's you know, as I was saying a few minutes ago, the game has been released 3 years ago, and during these 3 years, we've lived with these operators, these heroes, and we learned to love them, and to create all their stories. And we wanted this movie for a long time. And this is the first time we see them almost alive, and that's wonderful.
As close as possible.
And I do have to give a shout out. We have the director for the cinematic who is here at the Invitational. He's sitting right over there, and he's trying very hard to
Can you give him a bit of a
on
shout
board.
out, please?
Yeah, there you go. This guy is a huge Rainbow Six fan. He was even showing the actors how to throw Thermite's EMP grenade. Thatcher's EMP grenade, sorry.
So good.
That's a lot of dedication, and shows that Siege as a community as well goes well beyond what you would imagine, even to the people that end up directing the movie that we have at the end of it. It's pretty darn cool, and it is, again, all a gift to you here in Montreal and at home from Ubisoft for all your dedication and fan service over the past 3 years as we head into year 4. But gentlemen, there were some, how do I say, interesting words spoken in that wonderful CGI, and I heard 6. What's going on? I thought Aurelia was 6.
Well, you know, with Aurelia, the way she handled everything dealing with the white masks and all the other terrorist threats out there, she's been promoted within the State Department. And so she basically picked her protege to step up and take over for her. Now, the reason that we ended up by going with Harry as our new 6 is because we wanted a different approach. We wanted somebody that was going to be a lot more involved in the lives and in the everyday life of Rainbow itself. And we wanted somebody that the operators could talk to without resorting to that kind of military shorthand that happens when you have soldiers speaking to each other.
And with that, I assume that Harry's also has that military background like Aurelia, or not at all?
No, but in a different way. I mean, the thing is that if you take a look at all the 6s that came before, you know, with your John Clark, Ding Chavez, and Aurelia Arnaud, with all of them, they all come from an intelligence or a military background. We wanted somebody, and that was Harry, who was a military psychologist and who was an expert in military culture, because we wanted very much of a different approach to how things were going to be done. And so with the new 6, we actually have the ability to focus more now on the aspect of Rainbow training each other, the best training the best.
Yeah, I mean, have we seen him in and around the game in some Easter egg before or not?
Yeah, we have seen him in, actually, you may not be aware of it, but ever since Lion's Bio, we've taken a completely different approach to how we do the bios. And so we started creating a psychological report behind the operators. And so Harry has been there from the beginning. He was helping Aurelia pick the operators following the white mask incident. And he's been informing her of which would be the best operators to pick. The fans have actually been seeing his voice used in the psychological profile, starting with Maestro and Alibi.
Oh, that's pretty darn interesting. And we saw him try to tackle the debacle that Dokkaebi was kind of putting up on the board. Thatcher never respects her. She doesn't understand her perspective, and it seems like he's not willing to see hers either.
Yeah, Dokkaebi, well, first, Dokkaebi and Thatcher are iconic operators, iconic heroes into our community. And that's why we wanted to make a movie around them. And these two characters are the perfect
they're a reflection.
Reflection of what Harry is representing. The two opposite, two different characters, two different approach of their job, two different personalities.
Different cultures, different languages, different military pedigree, even different eras of how the Special Operation Forces members acted and reacted. You've got Thatcher, who comes from the SAS, which is the grandfather practically of the modern Special Operation Forces. But then you've got Dokkaebi, who represents the new growing threat of asymmetrical warfare. And so we really wanted to put those two opposites together to see that kind of clash and to see how they would react and work together. It was a perfect venue to introduce Harry.
All right, well, I hear all of this, and the way you make it sound is, you know, this new person you were looking for is more of an older, wiser gentleman with a certain experience. That's not what we heard in there, and Andy, looking at you, it takes a lot of cojones to go in the recording booth with basically your boss at that point and say, you know what? I'm going to throw all this out the window. I'm going to make my own take on that. How is it from your perspective?
Well, absolutely. I saw it as an opportunity to do something different. What was asked for and what I brought to the table, they were totally separate and totally different. And I said, if it works out, it would be cool. And it's It's cool. It's super cool. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I wanted to take the opportunity to do something different and make some choices that would be different than whatever everybody else was bringing into the room.
Yeah, and he did exactly that. I mean, all the auditions were professorial, older, they were sort of uptight, and he came in with this kind of little bit of a frantic energy, and he was mesmerizing to watch. And so we started looking at him. Afterwards, we asked him, and I asked him, and I said, you know, what was your inspiration for that? Why, you know, how come you brought us that performance? What drove you to that selection?
Well, we were talking about Michael Mondo and seeing the Far Cry, him in Far Cry, and what he did with that audition, and how they completely created something from what he did. And so I was really inspired by that whole idea that, you know, you can bring something to the table, and if it's different, it can be liked.
Yeah, and to say the least, what you did there was, how to say, to put it into better words, some that you wrote, actually, Lucien. It was the definition of insanity, which actually, if you played Far Cry 3, he wrote that line.
Yeah, I was having a really bad week when I wrote that script, so yeah. That's where the definition of insanity came from.
Yeah, I very much had to shake your hand after hearing that, because that was I played the game until that part because I just wanted to see it for myself, to say the least. But now, this is a new direction. This is Andy's performance. This is Harry, our new 6. New blood, fresh blood in Rainbow Six, and now that's new management. How are things going to shape up for year 4?
Yeah, we want to take a different tone. We want to give to Rainbow something much more lighter, a much more optimistic perspective. And with Harry, bringing this very atypical tone, atypical vision of Special Forces universe, it brings a fresh
take.
Fresh atmosphere to the game. And this is what we want for the next months and next years. And you will see how, as you know, Harry is the recruiter, is the one who recruits the operators. So we'll see how in the future the operators, the next operators, will be in this direction.
Yeah, but even this past year, it was the same thing, where you were seeing operators, more and more operators who were selected because of what they could bring into Rainbow. Sort of your atypical soldiers, but you've got Dokkaebi, Clash, you've got Nomad, you've got all these operators who, and even Finka and Lion. From Harry's perspective, special operation forces are being stretched thin. They're being sent on more and more missions that are normally assigned to standard military units. As a result of that, they're beginning to get stretched thin, a lot more injuries are occurring, and they're also facing the threat of asymmetrical warfare with CBRN, with nanotechnology, with computers, with drones. And so you'll see Harry recruiting all these individuals into Rainbow to help Rainbow train each other, to learn from each other, which means that they need to be a lot more of a tightly cohesive unit. And then from there, he hopes that they will take their knowledge and their understanding in facing these new threats and disseminate it back to their home units.
It seems like that's a bit of an analogy for something else, Manu.
Exactly. This is what we wanted from a long time, trying to, how can we create the perfect parallel between our fantasy, the universe of the game, and the in-game itself. And when we see what happened in the game between the players, this is exactly what Harry represents. The players have to deal with their own personality, their own susceptibilities, their own origin, languages, and they have to deal with that to be the best team. And this is exactly what Harry has to deal with. He has to deal with different personalities. The example of Dokkaebi and Thatcher, this is exactly what the players live day to day.
But it's also a reflection of our player base. I mean, we have a huge community that speaks different languages, that comes from different backgrounds, that even approach the same operators in different ways. And so we wanted to kind of have a reflection of that, of Harry also kind of, talking about how all these players are coming together and approaching things differently and playing the game their own way. and still, you know, operating within a team or winning or losing. I mean, that's the interesting thing for us.
And guess what? That's being reflected in every single match and every single moment here at Six Invitational. Not only is it the same when you're playing from home, but also as someone that is deep into esports myself, I can tell you, every single one of these players, they come from different backgrounds, they come from different places in the world, different cultures, different likes, dislikes, and yet somehow they all bring it together to try and win. We saw already Team Empire being able to do that and get to the grand final. We'll see who that second team is going to be later on in the day, and it is very much a perfect metaphor. If you're watching at home, remember this. There's a few things that Rainbow Six, I think, reflects for the community. It's, I guess, summarizing it in 3 words. It's friendship, rivalries, and differences. And guess what? If you didn't know, it's those differences that make us as human and as wonderful as possible. On that very wholesome point, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the CGI. I hope you enjoyed the Rainbow Six Universe panel. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here, and thank you very much for your work and all that you put in for the community. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and everybody watching at home.